Konnichiwa, my Swordlings. I'm SephirothSword57, and today we are going to look. Well, this won't do at all. Oh. Much better. Konnichiwa, my Swordlings. It is I, SephirothSword57, and I welcome you back to the SephirothSword57 show. Today I have something super cool to announce. As we all know, the SephirothSword57 show has since the beginning been a show about interesting plot points and ideas. But you Swordlings who have watched season 1 and 2 of the SephirothSword57 show are probably wondering, Seph-sama, I have watched all of your videos, and I have a hard time figuring out where to place these videos in the story. Well, that's why I am here today, my Swordlings, to talk about the official timeline of the SephirothSword57 show. Warning, there is spoilers up ahead. If you haven't seen Season 1 and Season 2 of SephirothSword57, pause this video and go watch them and come back to this video later. When talking about timelines, the first question that comes to mind would be, what is placed first in the timeline? Now, I will be excluding update videos, Q&A videos, etc. because those videos are featuring me, SephirothSword57, and not the character in the SephirothSword57 show that go by the same name. So those videos will not be on the official timeline. Now, with that in mind, your first assumption would be that the first review on the channel should be the first in the timeline, right? But in this case, that is not the case. In fact, it's not even part of the timeline at all. But before you panic, let me explain. If you remember my Chrono Trigger video from 2014, you will also remember that the video, while being entertaining, doesn't really have anything that is related to the overall plot of the SephirothSword57 show. In fact, you could put this video anywhere in the timeline and it wouldn't make much impact. And if we apply this method to the other videos, we will come to the realization that there are a few videos that are going to be excluded from the official timeline. I mention this now, so you Swordlings don't have to wonder where those videos are later in the timeline. Anyway, now that we have excluded all those videos, it's time to start the official SephirothSword57 timeline. The first thing that happens in the timeline is actually something that hasn't been featured in any video on the channel. The first time Shadow, Chrono, and Cloud meets. Now, of course, Seph-sama already knows these characters, because he has played their games before, which is actually a similar situation between you, the Swordlings, and me, Seph-sama. You know about me, but we don't know each other personally. So that is what happens first in the timeline. Next up, we have our first video, the Creepypasta. Here is where it gets interesting. Now, you might be thinking, Seph-sama, if I recall correctly, shouldn't this video be the first in the timeline, since Seph-sama is still living with his parents in that video? Very good point there, my Swordling. And it would be right if it wasn't for the fact that it's not the story itself that is important here, at least not the time it takes place, but rather when he decided to share this story. Once Seph-sama uploaded this video to the internet for people to see, a curse was unleashed upon Seph-sama. The curse of the Tidus head was activated. Sharing this story is what activated it. And with this, there is a 50% chance that Seph-sama will be cursed by the bleeding Sharingan Tidus head. Moving along, here is something that happens off screen, but we know for a fact that Nintendo gathered the 7 Dragon Balls here before his battle with Seph-sama at the end of Season 1. It's something that doesn't happen in any of the videos, but with the fact that Seph-sama finds the Dragon Balls on Nintendo's corpse after the battle is done, we know that this is something that did happen. And here is where it gets really interesting, my Swordlings. What happens next is a split timeline. That's right. Remember the cursed Sharingan Tidus head I talked about earlier? Well, here is when that comes into play. There is a 50% chance that Seph-sama will be cursed, and there is a 50% chance that he won't be, meaning that there is a cursed timeline and an uncursed timeline. First we will be exploring the cursed timeline, which leads into the Halloween vlog. And you all know how this one ends, my Swordlings. This is the timeline where the Tidus head cursed him with bad luck that would lead Seph-sama down the dark path of using the video game Death Note to accidentally kill Hironobu Sakaguchi, and in turn be attacked by his ghost, and this is the last time we hear from Seph-sama in this timeline. So let's rewind. Let's explore the uncursed timeline now, which will lead us into the Mario Maker video. Now, there's not a lot of plot points going on in this video, except the ending. At the end of the video, Seph-sama is put to sleep by Nintendo, who before this didn't have enough strength to fight Seph-sama. But after Seph-sama played Mario Maker, it gave Nintendo temporary subjective power, and he took this opportunity to finally push Seph-sama into reviewing one more game to increase the time limit of his temporary power by 2 hours. And you know what comes next. This, of course, will lead us into the Bloodborne video, a direct sequel to the Mario Maker video. This one is going to have a lot of intense, heavy information. So listen up! In this video, Seph-sama, Shadow, Chrono and Cloud are fighting Nintendo with all their might, but it doesn't seem to be enough. Shadow tragically dies in this battle, which pushes Seph-sama over the edge, and to Nintendo's surprise, unleashes his Bankai, a move from the Bleach anime and manga series from Japan, and defeats Nintendo with a Super Omni / Tenseiken / combo, an enhanced attack from Final Fantasy VII and Grandia 2 respectively. This is something Nintendo didn't expect. He was planning on defeating Seph-sama without killing him and then leave the Dragon Balls behind. The same Dragon Balls he left a curse on so that Seph-sama would use them to revive Shadow and in the process brainwash him to become Nintendo's right-hand man. Seph-sama has a terrifying and powerful skill that not even Seph-sama himself understands, which is why he acted instinctively and didn't have any control over his power. And with that, Nintendo is gone. For now. Even though Nintendo was defeated by Seph-sama, which he didn't plan for, Seph-sama still used the cursed Dragon Balls to revive Shadow, which he did plan for. And with that, Shadow started working for Nintendo behind the scenes and would keep Seph-sama on track so that he would continue to review games to power up Nintendo, who is waiting to be resurrected. This plot point was revealed in the Pokemon Go video, which we will be getting to a little bit later. Okay, so next up we have the Sonic Adventure 2 review. This is chronologically the first SephirothSword57 video to have something plot related, and the first video where Shadow started working for Nintendo. And it makes sense when you think about it. In the previous videos, Shadow never joined the reviews and make sure Seph-sama got through it. But all the videos after starting with this one would have Shadow interacting with the review in some way. Which proves that my theory is correct. In this one, Shadow encourages Seph-sama to finish the game so that Nintendo would get Life Force from the review. Next up, Shadow of the Colossus happens. In this one we get to see Seph-sama's incredible and unique power on display again. Shadow sacrifices himself so that Seph would finish the review, and during the fight with Shadow the Colossus, Seph-sama once again acts instinctively and uses the Kagebunshi no Jutsu from Naruto and follows up with Jiraiya's technique, the Rasengan, from Naruto. And Seph-sama defeats Shadow the Colossus. And at the end of the episode, Seph-sama uses a Phoenix Down to review Shadow, which is something that Shadow makes sure Seph-sama was carrying before he sacrificed himself. As you can see, it's pretty obvious at this point that Shadow is up to something. But we don't know that yet in the story. So from here we move on to the next video, the Ocarina of Time video. Now, at first it seems like there aren't a lot to take from this video, plot-wise that is. But this video actually has a couple of interesting and important plot points for the story. In this video, we see Seph-sama reviewing a Zelda game. But why would he do that? It's almost like someone suggested that he should review it. Speaking of Shadow, this is the first time we see Shadow acting strangely. I'm not really sure why this is the case, but it is something interesting to point out. Anyway, at the end of this video, you get to see Seph-sama fighting Link, and look at Seph-sama's reaction to Link showing up. I wouldn't recommend it to anybody, and I would...
Excuse me, SephirothSword57.
Link?
I'm gonna defeat you.
I've defeated stronger foes than you, but I guess I can take this opportunity to try out my new Blitz move. Looks to me like this is not their first encounter. That's interesting. Another thing to add is that during the fight with Link, Seph-sama purposely shatters his own eardrums so that Link's song won't affect him. That's interesting. And the last interesting part here is that Link mentions this.
Nintendo will be pleased now that SephirothSword57 is defeated. Looks like this is the final episode of SephirothSword57.
At this point, we, the audience, believe that Nintendo is gone forever after Seph-sama defeated him. This is the first review where we hear about Nintendo's return, and with that, we end that video. Now, with the release of this video, I got a lot of comments that said Seph-sama shouldn't be able to hear what Link is saying in this episode because he lost his hearing. And to that I have to say, this is not an oversight on my part. Your Swordlings should know better. Seph-sama lost his hearing, but in return, he gained enhanced eye coordination and reflexes, and he can also read lips now, which is why he was able to understand Link when he was talking in the Ocarina of Time video. But Seph-sama's hearing wouldn't return for the next video, the Smash Brothers video. Now this video has some small details that are important to the lore. First off, like I mentioned earlier, Seph-sama is deaf in this video, but that doesn't stop him from reviewing a game. which by the way was a challenge from Shadow, showing once again that something is up with Shadow. This is also the review where Seph-sama remembers what Link said about Nintendo in the previous video, but before he could bring it up, he is interrupted by someone ringing the doorbell.
And who is that at the door? Well, it's Nanami, of course.
Seph-sama's cousin and childhood friend, who is also a transfer student and is going to be staying over at Seph-sama's place from now on. She doesn't really show up until the Pokemon Go review, but this is her first off-screen appearance.
And a really important one at that.
You see, after the video, Nanami heals Seph-sama's injury, but for it to fully heal, he needs to sleep for 24 hours, because if he does that, he will keep all the enhanced skills he got when he lost his hearing. So it is something that Seph-sama can't pass up on.
Now here is an interesting part of the timeline.
During the 24-hour sleep, Seph-sama decides to review another game in his dreams. That's right, Undertale. And if you go back and watch that video, you can tell that it has a very calm, almost dreamlike atmosphere. This video has no intro, and the way Seph-sama talks is also different.
That is because he's in a dream, reviewing the game.
Going back to the uncursed timeline, it is very obvious which one comes next. Pokemon Go. After 24 hours, it is time for Seph-sama to wake up. Nanami is there to wake him up and cook him some breakfast, when Shadow shows up sporting a bunch of Pokemon gear.
I think at this point it starts to become clear what Shadow's intentions really are.
After Seph reviews the game, Shadow decides to spill the beans and straight up tells Seph-sama his plan. He doesn't need to lie anymore, since Seph-sama has reviewed enough games for Nintendo to be resurrected. And with that, Shadow disappears, and here begins a new part of the story. And Seph-sama and the party are from this point on a search party who are trying to locate Shadow the Hedgehog.
Now this is where everything changes. It will take a long time before Seph-sama and the party find Shadow again.
This leads into a new era, the 5-year search for Shadow.
That's right, my Swordlings.
But what happens next, you ask? Well, there are currently only 2 major documented events that happened during these 5 years. And those are the Final Fantasy XV video, where the only noticeable plot point is that Noctis joins the party to look for Shadow.
But why was Noctis not present during the encounter with Nintendo later on? And why did Seph-sama review a game instead of looking for Shadow and having fun at that? Well, the answer is very simple. Let's talk about JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Part 4, Diamond is Unbreakable.
In Part 4 of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, there is also a group of people searching for someone. In this case, it is a serial killer who needs to be put to justice. But even though it is quite a serious matter, most of them are still high school students, and the others also have other duties to attend to. And there is also time for fun when there are no leads found yet.
And Seph-sama and the others are in a similar situation. Seph-sama, Nanami, Chrono, and Cloud are all Japanese high school students. And if they have no leads to where Shadow are, how are they supposed to do anything about it? They still have time for some fun, like how Noctis and Seph-sama went to the Japanese hot spring.
Anyway, the second major event to happen was Logan Paul's disgusting behavior in Japan. You all remember this, right? Some dumb-looking Westerner named Logan Paul went to Japan and was acting like a complete aho.
This might not make sense at the moment, but this event did affect future SephirothSword57 content quite a bit.
Now let's talk about the last video of this timeline. You know the one. The Breath of the Wild video.
The last chapter in the 5-year search era is finally coming to an end. Seph-sama finally encounters Shadow after all these years.
What we can take from this video is that Nintendo grew stronger and stronger because of the subjective force during the 5 years Seph-sama and the others were looking for Shadow. All he needed was the final push from Seph-sama when he reviewed Breath of the Wild, and now he is the most powerful being in that universe.
But that is not enough for Nintendo.
He now has the power to travel between time, space, and universes, and his plan is to become the strongest creature in all the universes. Shadow gets trapped in a random dimension, and if that wasn't enough, Aniki shows up. Who is Aniki? Well, I can't talk about that yet, since it would be a spoiler for future videos. And then, a Shadow clone shows up and stabs Seph-sama in the back through his body, and that is when the video ends.
I can't add any more than that at the moment, as it will spoil future videos that are in the works. So stay patient, my Swordlings.
And just to finish this timeline off, this will of course lead into SephirothSword57 Gaiden.
And that is the whole current timeline up to this date. I'm sure you Swordlings are looking forward to future releases. I am currently working on a lot of videos at the moment, and they are all going to be super sugoi. Now, I know there is something you Swordlings want to know about, and that is, where is episode 2 of SephirothSword57 Gaiden? And I am sad to inform your Swordlings that the SephirothSword57 Gaiden show is currently put on hold at the moment. For those of you that have seen the SephirothSword57 Gaiden show, you will know what kind of production value we are talking about here. The show is just too ambitious for our current equipment and income, not to mention our limited staff as well. Now don't get me wrong, I, Seph-sama, am the one who wants to see this show come to life the most. But it is just something we don't have the time and resources to do at the moment. Now I should mention that for those of you who want to support the show more, there is a SephirothSword57 Patreon where you can support the show directly. But like I said earlier, there are still going to be a lot of videos coming out for the channel in the future that you Swordlings are really going to enjoy. Anyway, I hope you really enjoyed this video, my Swordlings, and I will see you in the next episode. Have a good night, evening, morning, or day. Moshi mosh!
Arigato for watching this video, my Swordlings. I hope you find the timeline very exciting. Now it would be super sugoi if you like this video and comment. And I would like to take this moment to thank all the patrons who are supporting this show. If you'd like to become a patron, there's a link right here on the screen. And speaking of Patreon, I have a second channel called SephirothSword57 Plus, where there's a ton of content. So if you haven't seen that yet, go and check it out. That is it for now. Moshi mosh!